Guru Nation, welcome to another episode of Random Musings from the Clinical Trials Guru. This is going to be a special episode because we're talking to an entrepreneur in the space, and I love entrepreneurs in life sciences. I mean, every industry is fueled by entrepreneurs. For some reason, in life sciences, that tends to be forgotten, and maybe for good reason, because we're thinking about treatments and cures and putting the patients first, which we should. But there are entrepreneurs, just like any other industry, probably taking even bigger risks in life sciences, but I don't want to get on another tangent here. But I was looking at some valuations for how biotechs get valued compared to like regular tech companies, and it's just not. And maybe I'll do a whole nother podcast on that another time. But today I've got Ken Steinberg. He's the entrepreneur I've been telling you about. He's got a great story. He is the founder of Clinical Bid, which we're going to get into. He's done other things in the space as well, and I'm going to let him introduce himself. Because he can do it better than I can. So Ken, thank you very much for coming on and sharing your expertise with Guru Nation.
Oh, Dan, it's my honor. Thank you very much. We listen to your podcast, so this is great.
Yeah, thank you for that. So let's get into your origin story. Who are you? Where did you grow up? We talked a little bit before, so I see New England, and it's kind of hard to miss that with your background there. For those listening, you've got to watch the YouTube video. He's got all kinds of Patriots and Boston stuff behind him. So cool stuff. Who are you? How did you get started in this space?
Well, I always joke around. I'm just a short, bald guy from New Hampshire. Of course, New Hampshire being the epicenter of all great medical and biopharma innovation, right? I kid.
That's right.
I'm 35 year veteran of the high tech industry, but knocking 20 years off the front where you cut your teeth and you do all the things you need to do to kind of mature your way. Probably about how we get here. About 10 years ago, I had a cybersecurity company that I sold, and I decided after that I was going to get into a variety of different verticals. In other words, I didn't want to tie my next venture to one particular vertical. I wanted to be able to do research and development across a wide variety of things. So kind of fast forward to a couple years ago, we've done haptic robotic interfaces. We were working, everything, caseless ammunition. We just finished a brand new intubation device. We've done, about 3 or 4 years ago, we did a diabetes glucose meter that allowed us to tell your blood glucose sugar by looking at your eye for 7 seconds using pupillary light response and AI. So, we kind of, within Cambridge Research and Development, every year, it's 2 or 3 different projects, right? Some of them are DoD, some of them are non-DoD, and we just kind of work through that. As a result of our work in the diabetes space, when we had this handheld pupillometer, and I can kind of show it to you here. You just hold it up against your eye like this, and you look into it. It's got a camera in here that takes 7 seconds of video. It's connected to my cell phone and tells me what my blood sugar level is.
Really?
Right? Yeah.
Did you guys do clinical trials on this?
I should give you $5 for that segue. We're entrepreneurs. We want to go out, we're talking to all the big boys, and what do they say at first? Everybody who's interested in a product says, okay, what do you have for clinical results? Yeah. And you get into this chicken and this egg scenario where, okay, but we need the investment to do the clinical trials. And they're like, well, you need to do the clinical trial to get the investment. Yeah. Like, okay. So we put together our protocol. We put together a proposal. We've got our inclusion criteria, exclusion criteria. Very, very simple, right? A protocol that basically consisted of people fasting the night before, coming in the next morning and, drinking some sugar water and basically using a standard diabetes prick meter compared to ours. Very, very simple, 20 people. So we take this protocol out and we take it to a small CRO. We take it to a university. We take it to a large CRO. And you can imagine what we got for a response. Everything from $20,000 to $250,000 to do the exact same protocol. And being, uneducated, we started asking around and we're like, this isn't right. So we asked a lot of people, and we found out that, and I'm kind of getting ahead of the story here a little bit, but that a lot of the clinical research environment is is really all around who you know. It's grip and grin. It's kissing babies, right? So, as I said, I don't want to get ahead of this, but our research kind of led us to an aha moment where we said, look, we think there's a gap here between the concept of a clinical trial and the execution of a clinical trial, and we did about 2 years of research. So, I'll take a breath, but that's kind of out of our own machinations and having to deal with trying to do our own clinical trials. We realized how hard it is for somebody to find the right partner, find the patient population, all those things. So we kind of went after that solution.
Wow, yeah, that's interesting actually. So basically clinical bid, and we're going to get into it specifically, grew out of a pain point that you had with Cambridge R&D.
Yep.
Now, were you the founder of Cambridge, or were you?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Okay, so let's
Yep.
back up to there.
Sure.
How does somebody start a spot like a pharma company or a medical device company?
You have to be crazy.
Yeah,
You
you
have to
do.
surround yourself with a lot of people. It's a big difference between trying to get your 510K and doing biopharm, right? So we tend to gravitate towards the 510K arena. As I said, we did haptic robotic interface. We've done, we have this intubation device. We did this device here. We've looked at a variety of non-invasive blood meters and blood pressurization meters. We've been asked to actually consider how to do telemedicine for astronauts while they're in transit between the Earth and Mars. So how to do telemedicine while someone is traveling between here and there. So lots of different head thoughts. But to kind of get into that space, we bolt on that expertise, right? I'm not a 510K expert, but there are enough people out there that you can kind of dip your space into. The thing you have to do is you have to find the niche, and the niches tend to come to us a little bit. People tend to come to us and give us hard problems to solve. And then it's like everybody else, it's a lot of PubMed research. It's a lot of IP reading. It's a lot of article reading. And we just seem to have a knack to find the little spaces that pop out, right? Now, granted, this glucose meter was a great idea. We had a lot of people talking to us, but the CGM market pretty much killed anything, even if it's a better solution like this, which is non-invasive. We were going to sell it for $9.99 a month. It was a subscription service, and it would have been very inexpensive, very easy to use, unlimited use. But people like the convenience of the continuous glucose meters because it's on your hip. It's continuously monitoring. You don't have to take an action. You don't have to pull something out. You don't have to do this. So, rightly so, that had a better user experience, right?
Yeah.
So.
Were you able to get the 510K for that device that you were holding?
No. In our opinion, it wasn't. We actually went down and talked to the FDA, and they surprised us. We thought that they were going to want our device to be able to be within pinpoint accuracy like a regular glucose meter. We're proposing ranges, and they actually said to us, no, we're okay with ranges because we find that people make mistakes calculating their insulin levels with the numeric values. So they said if you can have a device that actually tells somebody, here's the range you're in, we think it actually would be helpful. So we went that route, but we didn't do the 510 because we got into this chicken and the egg of the funding and the clinical trials.
Yeah.
So we parked it. The industry was changing. The business window closed with CGM, and we moved on, which is what we're comfortable doing.
Yeah, I'm asking because I just submitted my 510K 2 weeks ago, my first 510K I ever did. Yeah.
Awesome.
And it was somebody that I know that runs a company and is actually doing a favor for an Australian company. But now I added that service to my CRO, and I said, hey, if we do 510K, now we can start getting into the INDs next. So,
right.
That's what I was telling you about earlier, about the next decade of my career is going to be sponsor side, because it looks like it's headed in that direction.
Right.
So there are a lot of similarities here, but I'm still fascinated by how you came up with the idea, or were there a group of people to start Cambridge R&D?
Nope, just me. Yeah, I mean, literally just me. I went, so when I was a kid, this is a long time ago, I'm dating myself. When I was a little kid, I fell in love with Steve Austin, the $6 million man. So I wanted to go to school for cybernetics. I wanted to build artificial limbs. Unfortunately, like most guys who are long in the tooth like I am, when I went to school, we were still doing punch cards.
Okay.
Computers were still the size of rooms. You weren't going to stick that in anybody's body, right? So I went and got, ME degree, then went off and got my computer science degree because I knew that computers were going to have to advance considerably to be any part of any cybernetics solution. Plus, to kind of go down a rat hole a little bit from the robotics side, artificial muscle has been stuck in a kind of a permanent park for probably 3 or 4 decades. There are two things that keep robotics from moving forward. One is lightweight portable power supplies, and battery technology is getting better. But the other one is artificial muscle and artificial tendons. Right now in the industry, when you do anything having to do with robotics and you want to simulate artificial muscle or tendon, you're using linear actuation. Well, linear actuation is either really weak when you use magnetics or it's really heavy when you use fluid. But that hasn't advanced. Nobody's come up with an artificial muscle that approximates the density and the power of human muscle. So I had to put that whole career aside. But when I got rid of my cybersecurity company, I went back to my roots and said, you know what, this is 30 years forward. Maybe there's some openings. So the first thing I went after was this haptic interface for robotics, and that just kind of led to other things.
And eventually, and I could see how that naturally or organically transitions you into the world of clinical research.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. You can't avoid it, right? I mean, if you're going to touch the human body any way whatsoever, you're running into clinical research.
Makes a lot of sense. Okay. So for your device that you put on the eye to get a range of the insulin, you put out bids.
Right.
Or you put out RFPs, requests for proposals.
We did what everybody did. We went out and gripped and grinned, right? We found somebody in the phone book. We talked to some friends. They said, go here, go there. We went here, we went there with our proposal under our arm, and we showed it to them. We showed them our device. We showed them the data we had, and we said, do you want to conduct this trial for us? And the results we got back were astounding. We thought people would be within a few $1,000s of each other, not within hundreds of thousands of. Yeah. It was a learning experience. It was a real learning experience.
Next time you come to my CRO, we do this for you. No problem. No need for clinical bid, but we'll get into why there is a need for it.
Love it.
Yeah, there's a huge gap between, especially at the CRO level. All right, and there even is at the site level, the investigative site. I mean, you kind of need both to do a study. You really need the site. You don't necessarily need the CRO, but for all practical purposes, most sponsors do need a CRO if they're small.
They may not use them from a full capacity standpoint, but they're using portions of them. But yeah, there is that tendency now as people get smarter and start to manage their own trials to interface directly with the sites.
That's right, and they need to because the FDA, as of 2016 GCP revision, said the sponsor, not the CRO, are the ones that they're holding responsible for the study.
There you go. Wow, so, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so that got a lot of CROs scared. But I'm not surprised when you put out the RFP and you got like just a wide range of different proposals, and they all understood what you were wanting, right?
Yeah, it wasn't complicated, right? I mean, by no means, 20 people basically doing a glucose test in the morning is not something that's going to. Video just went really interesting there. Yeah, I'm seeing 2 of you.
Really?
So,
okay.
But yeah. Hopefully but it's all right. I'm sure it'll sync up. Yeah.
Hopefully it's coming out okay.
So yeah, no, it very simple protocol. Nothing that would confuse anybody. Certainly dealing with people far smarter than we were, but the prices were all over the place. And we were talking to somebody today at a symposium, and they had a similar experience where they had a fixed protocol. They wanted to do a proposal. They went to the small, medium, large CRO, and it was $60,000 all the way up to $1.3 million. And this was a 17-person study.
Wow.
No, a 20-person study, and the $1.3 million quote, that CRO put 17 people on the project to study 20 people. And the $60,000 one at the low end had 3 people working on the trial.
How many visits were there supposed to be?
1 visit. 20 people, 1 visit. From $1.3 million down to $60,000.
So the study for the patient begins and ends the same day, basically, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that shouldn't. Yeah, that's what we call one of the cheapos, one of the cheap ones. I can't believe you're getting those kind of quotes.
Reality is probably somewhere in between, but the 1.3 million and 17 people, like a 1-to-1 ratio of staff to participants, clearly overkill. But that's the type of proposal you look at it and you go, they must have put this out here just thinking, look, we really don't want to do the work.
Yeah.
We'll quote it high, and if they take it, our margins will be phenomenal. But they're really doing a disservice to the sponsor. Right?
See, it's interesting because the CROs get in there and they try to, and this has been some of the cause for frustration for the sites. And I'm in a unique situation where I'm at the site CRO and soon to be at sponsor level. And if you think about it, the majority of the money for doing a study should be going to the sites. They're the ones doing the work. They're the ones enrolling the patients. But the majority of clinical trial budgets or spending are going to vendors, so not the sites, right?
Yeah,
just
40% or more is going to that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So, so what does Clinical Bid do? How does Clinical Bid solve this problem?
Well, so the Clinical Bid and what you'll see on the site today is the first of 4 phases. So the first part we wanted to address, and this kind of ties into another story, is we wanted to give people options. So, for example, we have 200 CROs listed on our site right now waiting to potentially bid on whatever proposal is put out there. They're from all across the country. As a matter of fact, we've been asked by Canada to include all their CROs and other things like that. But the nut of the story here is that we had an experience where we were trying to get our clinical trial done, and we thought we had somebody identified. And as we were about to ramp up with them, we realized we were going to have a patient population issue, so we didn't go forward. 6 months later, out of pure chance, I run into this guy in San Diego on the other side of the continent from me, and he says, that's unbelievable. He says, I wish we had known each other, because at the time you were trying to get your trial launched, I had a whole bunch of people coming off a diabetes trial in San Diego. So if I had known that gentleman, I would have, all the people coming off his trial would have gone right on mine. It would have been a perfect match. And this kind of sealed it. And we said, look, we need a way to foster communication between everybody. So a small company, an entrepreneur, a medium-sized company, we all know that the large companies, they go to the Parexels, they go to Charles River, they go where they go. But the other 2,000 CROs and all the other millions of small to medium companies need a mechanism to be able to work together.
Yes.
So, and there's no way for me to know without something like Clinical Bid, if you were doing some research and I was the perfect CRO for that or perfect site for that, you and I would never meet without a service like this.
Yeah.
Right? So the idea here was really simple. Give the sponsor the ability to go online and post a proposal for a clinical trial, whether that's, you can post it to the public. In other words, everybody can see it. And we emulated the clinicaltrials.gov format for clinical trial specification. So we said, all right, we can do a public or you can do a private. So you can go and you can say, look, maybe I'm doing a rescue trial and I don't want my current CRO to know that I'm displeased.
Okay.
I want to go out and I want to post a private proposal, invitation only, and I want to invite you and 3 other people, but not alert my current CRO, then I'm really not that happy, right? So we've got private bidding, so it's invitation only. You can use that for rescues, or you can just use that protect your IP. And then we've got the public bidding, but basically you post it, and for sponsors and PIs, it's free. There's no charge.
Wow, okay. So what's the website? Because a lot of people are going to go to this right now. Is it up and running?
Oh, yeah, clinicalbid.com.
Let's check it out.
So now the CROs love us because what we do with the CROs and how we keep the lights on is we charge the CROs 3% of gross, but only if they win a bid. The CROs don't pay to bid either. So we're saving the CROs over 20% in overhead for lead acquisition and opportunity acquisition, because most CROs spend about 25% of their money on marketing. So we're saving them a ton of money. They can actually get leads sitting in their pajamas in their office, right? Don't even have to get dressed up. Don't have to go out and grip and grin. And the sponsors can go in. Now, the nice thing is you have the ability to go in, for example, with a private bid. You can say, look, I only want CROs that are in this country, or CROs who only focus on this disease type. So we've created this macrocosm, this communication component that allows anybody to go out and basically work with any CRO anywhere. And now what we're going to do is we're going to start adding on other features. So for example, we already have in here, if you look at clinical trials, there's 4 parts. You've got your CRO and site selection. You need your consultants, your clinicians, your statisticians, your nurses, right? You need your patient population, and then you need your hard and soft goods, your vendors for test tubes and things like that. So right now on Clinical Bid, you can do two things. You can go out and you can post proposals, public or private, for free, and the CROs will get those.
Wow.
You can also, that's kind of, we call that our lending tree analogy.
Yeah,
we also have an
right
Indeed
now.
analogy. Yeah, we have an Indeed analogy. If you log in or set up an account as a recruiter, you can post gigs there, and consultants can come in and apply for gigs. So now you've solved two parts of the clinical trial problem. Now the third part we're doing is we're reaching out to all of the patient population companies, and we're going to build our Trivago analogy. So when you post a proposal that says you're going to do diabetes, we're going to take your inclusion and exclusion criteria and your disease, and we're going to feed it to all of the patient population AI databases, and we're going to tell you, hey, by the way, there's like Trivago. You can get 20 patients over here, you can get 30 patients here, you can get 60 patients here. So you don't have to go to every patient population vendor and put in all your criteria and do all your selection. Do it. Our portal will actually reach out to all of theirs, tell you where the best populations are, and then you can go to those guys and get your work done. And then down the line, we'll bring in the vendors as well.
Yeah,
so that's the whole story that we're working on.
I'm on the, so I just clicked PI CROs and consultants register now. So no account fees, sign up for free. So basically, if I'm a site, this is another place I can go look for studies. So if you're a site, you can bid on studies as well?
Well, what we're going to start doing now is, so we're very agile on this. We built this core capability, and now we're talking to intelligent people like yourself, and we're learning more about how we're going to massage and add on to this. So, for example, we're going to add, probably in the next 2 months, we're going to add about 5,000 sites into this. So if you want to go on and you don't want a CRO, but you need to go find a site, you're going to be able to submit proposals to sites. We're also going to go and add the capacity for a CRO to also send out sub bids to sites. So it'll also help CROs find sites. Say a CRO has their 10 typical sites they work with, but they're all booked and they want to start a trial. They got to find other sites. They have that same communication problem.
Yeah.
Right? So we're going to try to stitch all this together by feeding off of what people feed to us in terms of what they want. But this is the foundation.
Are there RFPs on here now?
No, we literally launched 3 months ago. Okay. We stealth launched in August because we wanted to get our services up and running. We wanted to get our marketing up and running. We are just starting. Matter of fact, you're the first person, shall we say, in publication, in news, in podcasting that we have spoken to. We're just starting to get the feelers out. So this will grow over time.
This is fascinating. I mean, there's definitely a need for this. So I'd be curious to do follow-up interviews with you to see how it's progressing.
Sure. Everybody has said that. Everybody to a T has almost said verbatim what you just said. There's definitely a need for it. Now, we're causing a big paradigm shift here, right?
Sure.
Although it costs nothing.
You're bringing transparency to an industry that breeds off of lack of knowledge.
Well, it needs to be done. We felt the pain. We weren't going to spend $250,000 on our trial, knowing that we could have had it done for 20. Right. We knew reality was probably somewhere in between, or maybe somewhere down towards the lower end, but everybody else is going to that. So you think about how this affects everybody. You think about all of the startup companies that have a finite amount of money, and they've got to get a bunch of clinical trials done. And a lot of times you have to do more than one, right? So your financiers give you 12 shekels and you spend 6 of them on one trial, but you still got more trials to do. Mm-hmm. But if you use a service like this, now we can stretch the investment money. We can make the trial go faster. We can rescue more trials, and we can stretch that investment dollar. And we're hoping that a lot of companies can do more great research without having to bury the founders, bury the team, create the endless cycles of hunting for money. So there's lots of ways in which we're trying to help this environment. So
basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, so if you're a site, once the website's up and running, if you're a research site, let me go to it again, clinicalbid.com.
Yeah, so if you're a CRO, then you should come to us and ask us to make sure you're in the database so you can get alerts. If you're a sponsor or a PI, You just go and sign up, post your proposal. You can, when you post your proposal, we'll take you through a wizard. You can decide whether you want to do public or private. You can invite people as part of your private one. It's that easy. It costs nothing.
And you guys make money based on whoever wins the bid.
Right.
Only from the CROs, but not the sites, right?
Right. Only from the CROs. We haven't built the sites into this ecosystem yet. We're working on that now. Pretty soon, we're building the databases for that. We'll start to build that in. But we decided this is going to be based on fairness. Okay. We're not going to charge you a fee. We're not going to charge a CRO, some sort of monthly fee so they can submit a bunch of proposals and maybe not win all the time and they get really discouraged. We want them to come in, bid as much as possible, and only pay when they win business. That's right. I mean, that's the proper, fair way to do it. And the sponsors, we never want to add overhead on the front end of this, right? That would be really bad to do.
Are you thinking of doing the same business model for the sites or just leaving the sites?
We are thinking of, we're going to think, because of the way the dynamic of the environment is going, and look, I want to say to you and your listeners, we would love some feedback on how to craft that, but our thinking right now is that we are going to treat the sites like CRO personalities. So you'll be able to go in and either a CRO or a site will be able to bid on a proposal. You'll be able to include CROs or sites in your private bid. You can do a mix thereof. Mm-hmm. And we'll also allow down the line CROs to send bids to sites specifically for sub-bid environments. So all that's coming.
Same thing for consultants, I'm noticing here as well.
Consultants can kind of, one of the problems with consultants, LinkedIn and Indeed aren't really good for the clinical research personas, right? Try to find statisticians and nurses and people like that. So we said, look, we really need someplace where you can go and you can focus on the clinical research environment. So consultants can come in for free and post all of their information. Right, so that they're in there, they can add references to articles, references to previous work, basically populate their profile. The recruiters come in and they pay, like an Indeed fee, like $40 or $50 to post a gig, and then the consultants can then apply for those gigs. So that's our Indeed analogy. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here in terms of how to use the service. We're trying to apply the Trivago, the Indeed, the LinkedIn, and the LendingTree processes to this environment.
Interesting. Okay, so here where it says recruiter, you're talking about job recruiter,
right?
Okay, recruiter
or HR manager at a CRO. If you still, either way, you've got to fill a temporary position because you've got a clinical trial that's going to run for X months, and then that person's going to go away.
Fantastic. So if I'm a site. So basically, I need to register all my sites on here, and then I need to register my CRO on here.
Register your CRO first. The site registration will come later. So if you're a CRO, where we stand today, if you're a CRO, please get in touch with us. Make sure that if you're not in our database, we got to get you in there. Number two, when we launch our site analogy, and we're building it now, then we'll reach out to all the sites. We're already collecting them. We have probably 6,000 sites in our database that we'll be publishing, and we'll publish out to them. We also have 15,000 PIs on our mailing list that we send out regular updates to. We tell them about new proposals. So we have a lot of communication to pull people into the ecosystem, but we need sponsors to come on and save some money and save some time and give it a try because it costs nothing.
Very interesting. Now, when we started the interview, back to the device that kind of, I guess, spawned this entire idea.
We called it the glucose site, yes.
Whatever happened to it? Did you end up taking one of those bids, or did you just not do the study?
No, we put it aside. We realized from a business standpoint that the CGM market was going to close that opportunity. We were having discussions with Apple and Samsung and Dexcom and everybody, in the back, and they all knew of us and they all wanted our data. But you have to be a smart business person sometimes and realize that while every new business is basically, as I like to say, pushing a wet rope up a hill, sometimes you have to stop. And while we loved what we were doing, there wasn't a good partner. Cambridge Research and Development was never going to produce these and bring them to market. We were going to work with an existing player to bring them to market. But when the existing players are shifting their focus towards other competitive devices, right or wrong, whether CGM is the best solution or not.
So what is CGM? What's
a continuous glucose meter?
Okay.
Right, where you have a little device hanging on your hip and you've got a sensor under the skin and it's transmitting transdermally to this meter, and you can just basically look down and look at your blood glucose level. You don't have to prick your finger or look at a device, right?
Yeah.
So humans naturally gravitate to those simple things. So why push a wet rope up a hill? So no, we walked away from it, and we're comfortable doing that. We've walked away from many things. We throw a lot of things at the wall. We'll throw 5 or 6 more things at the wall in the next 6 months, and we'll go on with it. But Clinical Bid, everybody we've spoken to for the last 2 years wants us to do this. In our view, the only way it fails is if the sponsors don't show up and believe in it.
Which there's enough sponsors to where I don't think that will be a problem. So
that's where people like you come in. We need the word to get out, right?
Yeah, right? We need to get the spot. That's very interesting, actually. Fascinating. I wasn't expecting this to be up and running.
Oh yeah, it's up and running, ready to go. Been up and running for months. Mm-hmm. But please, we do not claim the high ground. We do not claim to be experts. We're talking with a lot of subject matter experts. If people have feedback, if people want to see other features, they can send me email at ken@clinicalbid.com. We are here to make this the best service possible. We're not here to claim we're the experts. Help us make it better.
ken@clinicalbid.com. I will put it in the show notes as well and underneath the video for those watching on YouTube. Thank you very much, Ken. This was actually very interesting for me. I think it's an opportunity as well for anyone listening. The CRO portal is ready now. If you're a site, you need to wait as of this. Today is October 2nd, 2019. So
this quarter, the site database will be up, and we'll be able to take site bids as well.
Okay, so before the end of the
year. By the end of the year.
Wow, very good.
Can I ask one other favor, if I can be really greedy here?
Yeah.
We've been doing a blog, and we may start turning it into a podcast, but we do a blog called Profiles in Clinical Courage, and it is focused solely on researchers who are working on rare diseases. We feel like they do not get enough recognition. Mm-hmm. There are people out there who have given their lives to researching rare diseases that may only have 10,000 people in just the United States, and they're slaving on poor funding, poor recognition, and they're doing this most likely out of love and their own drive. Like, for example, our first one was on Fragile X, which was phenomenal. Mm. We also are looking for anybody who knows researchers working on rare diseases, those that are listed in the rare disease database. Anybody who knows a researcher working on rare diseases, we would love to hear about that and perhaps get in touch with them so that we could do future articles and podcasts on them for our Profiles in Clinical Courage series.
Very good. Anybody that's listening or watching, email ken@clinicalbid.com if that is you or you know somebody who is a rare disease researcher. Very good. There's actually a huge need for that, Ken. So
yeah, they don't get the recognition. And please read the Fragile X article. I don't know if everybody out there knew that, but Fragile X is on the autism spectrum, and it is literally years away from being cured. They've already cured it in mice. It makes, I don't have any hair. I was going to say it makes the hair on my arm stand up, not the hair on my head. But it's just amazing to think that there might actually be a cure for a spectrum of autism in our lifetime.
Yeah. Wow. Yep, we're definitely turning into a new decade, literally, and I think there's going to be I think there's a transition. I think we're in the middle of a transition right now in medicine, so it's a good time.
CRISPR, epigenetics, all that.
Yeah, what a time to be alive, Ken. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Ken, for coming on. We're going to do a part 2 for sure, maybe first quarter 2020, just to see how things are progressing. And thank you very much for coming on again. The email, the website will be in the show notes, clinicalbid.com, ken@clinicalbid.com. Thank you very much, Ken, for coming on. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening, and we'll catch you all later. Bye-bye.